What should they do? What are the odds that Congress allocates more money to this program?
Ooh, I'm reluctant to put money on it because I'm a lawyer. The last year has shown broad bipartisan support for the PPP, and the fact that we went through so many rounds of extension and reauthorization and refunding show that there is interest, and there has always been interest. On that basis, I wouldn't be surprised, doubly so under a Democratic administration, if it was felt like, given how effective the PPP has been, and given that this is, for all its flaws, a process we've now been using for a year, that this just proved to be an effective mechanism for particularly a Democratic administration to funnel support to the smallest businesses. I wouldn't be surprised if another 300 billion was thrown into the PPP. And as we've seen from some of these last minute midnight authorizations to the PPP, and as is Congress's want, it wouldn't surprise me if further funding and potentially further authorization, i.e. extending the period of application, did happen at the 11th hour. At the same time, I think those existential questions as to what the PPP is and what it's designed to do remain. And frankly, I think there is a strong question as to business demand at this point, because, as I mentioned, sort of 10 to 15 billion a week, while interesting and helpful and I'm sure of value to those receiving it, is relatively small beer. And it's stretched over a much greater period than previous more busy weeks in the PPP round. And at some point, due to the way the programs was, the requirements and restrictions on the program, round 3 started in January this year. I'm personally not clear on what the population is that could obtain either a first or second PPP loan at this point, but for whatever reason have chosen not to. But it doesn't seem 14 months into a pandemic, however many months into the PPP program, that this option will suddenly de novo, appear to some small businesses. So there is a question as to whether there is a business demand for the PPP, and as Doug would say, there is question as to whether the economy more broadly, given recent rallies and how we're seeing the economy perform, whether there is even a need for continued access to the PPP program at that macro level. All of these factors, of course, would change significantly if Congress allowed for a third PPP loan, but I think that's rather unlikely at this point.